Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Roden and in today's video we're going to be going over the Mazda RX-7 FB or SA, first generation of the Mazda RX-7, whatever you want to call it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And in case you're new here, the way that the good, the bad, and the ugly works is first I go over everything you need to know about the car. That's just basic info like what engines it came with, the years it was produced, trim levels, gas mileage, reliability, etc, etc. Then I get into what the community, the car community, tends to do with them in terms of modifying them. And then I get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we'll go over when we get there. And then at the end of the video, I tell you whether or not I think you should buy the car depending on the current situation that you are in. So things like if you're looking for a daily, if you're looking for a project car, whatever it may be, I'll tell you whether or not I think it's a good option for you. Song of the day is called Pink Skies by Zach Bryan. It's summertime. Yeah, boy is listening to country music again with the windows rolled down with the sun setting. Okay, I live in a very rural area, okay, and it's just freaking a vibe. I don't care what anybody says. I used to be one of those guys too, man. As country music isn't cool. It's so trash. It's all about trucks and dirt and stuff. Nah, I like it now, man. I like it. Go give it a listen. Zach Bryan's a freaking national treasure. Without further ado, let's go right into the good, the bad, and the ugly on the FB RX-7. But like I said, man, before we get into all that action, first we got to go over the basic info about the car. What, just basic information about the Mazda RX-7 FB. So the years made and the generation. It was made between the years 1978 through 1985, and it is the first generation of the Mazda RX-7. However, it is obviously not the first generation of the Mazda RX rotary cars, or RX-3s and RX-2s that were built before them, and it's obviously not the first ever Mazda rotary either, but it is the first Mazda RX-7. As for the trim levels, this is where it kind of got a little confusing to me, if I'm being honest, man. There was like a lot of trim levels, and they kind of all remind me of each other, and also, in case you're new here, by the way, whenever we go over trim levels on this channel, I don't talk about like the stuff like this car has cruise control, this car has leather seats, this one has a sunroof. I only talk about trim levels if they actually have a different motor. Okay, so as for the trim levels for this car, there is the S, the GS, and the GSL, and those all come with a 1.2 liter two-rotor rotary engine, obviously making 115 horsepower. Those are like the quote-unquote base models. They obviously get a little bit better with different things that aren't engines or horsepower. As the next one is the GSL SE, which comes with a 1.3 liter two-rotor making 135 horsepower, which is not bad at all when you consider that this is a 70s car that weighs less than a Miata. That's actually very good. And then there is the turbo model, which is obviously the best, the highest trim level, so the hardest one to find, and that came with a 1.2 liter, back to the GSLs and stuff like that, turbocharged two-rotor now, making 165 horsepower, which is obviously the best in terms of performance, not the best in terms of reliability, though. Keep that in mind. This is a 70s turbocharged car. They're gonna have problems. just a fair warning, man. As for the body styles, however, they are available as a coupe and a convertible. It's very hard to find these things in convertible, though, but they did make some FB RX-7 convertibles. Again, looking online, though, most of the time you're gonna find a coupe, which is better anyways, in my opinion, but I guess if you really wanted a convertible RX-7, they are out there. Just gotta be patient. As for the drivetrains, it is rear-wheel drive only. As for the transmissions, it is a manual or an automatic. If you even for a millisecond think about buying an automatic FB RX-7, you might have a screw loose up there, buddy. Sorry to break the news to you, but you might be a little slow, because that is a 70s auto. It is literally not only the slowest shift of all time. You could read an entire Harry Potter book in between gear shifts if you bought the automatic, but it's also obviously going to have horrible reliability issues, and it's just going to be a nightmare. So get the manual. It's not hard to find them in manuals. As for the price, it is anywhere from, I would say, like $3,000 to $10,000. It really depends heavily on the condition. Obviously, if you're buying like a nice condition turbo, you could be looking at upwards of like 40 grand. No joke. Like low miles. It's a 70s car. So if you find one with like less than 50,000 miles, yeah, it's gonna be stupid expensive. But you could also get an FB RX-7 that's just rotted out in a piece of crap for like 3 grand. Again, it really just heavily depends on what condition you're trying to get. And then as for the reliability and the gas mileage, like I said multiple times already, these cars are obviously not reliable in the slightest bit. Not only are they a rotary car, which are already horribly unreliable, but they are also a 70s rotary car. So yeah, do not expect to use this thing as a daily driver or anything like that. It is just not for that. It wasn't even for that when it came out, dude. It was a sports car when the car came out, and now it's almost 50 years old now, dude. Like, yeah, it's just not a good idea in terms of reliability. And then the gas mileage, 18 miles per gallon combined, which is whatever. It's not good, but it's not bad for a sports car. It's just it's just average, I would say, for a sports car. All right, but what does the community tend to do with these things? When one of us little degenerates get our hands on an FB RX-7, what do we tend to put on them and modify them to do good in the motorsports world, right? Well, as for the drifting community, this is not seen very often, which honestly kind of surprises me a little bit. After thinking about it, it definitely makes sense why more people would want to drift an FB RX-7, but they don't. If I had to guess, I would say it's because you kind of need to change everything about the car. The manual trans is not going to work, the engine is not going to work, and the diff is not going to work for drifting. So you pretty much are just buying a chassis, but people do that already with FC RX-7s all the time. So I really don't know why, but yeah, you don't really see them a lot in the drifting world. As for the rally/off-road community, it's actually is seen in the rally world. I know, it's like the complete opposite of the FC and FD RX-7, but yeah, you'll see some in the rally/off-road community because there was a Group B RX-7 made, so a lot of people want to reimagine that, remaster that car, I guess you can say. And so yeah, a lot of people actually do use FB RX-7s in the rally world. They're also just really lightweight, and that's what people in the rally world want, and cheap. As for the street racing community, the guys that just like to go fast in a straight line, whenever I say street racing, I also mean drag racing. I think of them kind of in the same sense. This car is obviously not seen ever here because it's just not what this car was built for in the slightest bit. As for the track racing community, the circuit racing guys, autocross guys, time attack guys, whatever, seen sometimes, but definitely not as popular as other like 80s lightweight cars. There are just a lot of better options. E30s, Skylines, a lot of better options, and so people go with those instead of the FB RX-7. Even the FC, honestly, I would say it's more popular than this, but you can see it sometimes. They are lightweight and they do have a short wheelbase. It's just, again, it's just the idea that you got to put a lot of work into it before it's like a good race car. And then for the stance/show community, the guys that just build them up to look nice, park them in a parking lot, take cool TikToks and post them and get millions of followers, it's not seen here either. It isn't hyped up enough, pretty much. People aren't looking for FB RX-7s on Instagram and Facebook or TikTok or whatever it may be, and so because of that, people don't want to use them as clout cars, and they don't build them up to look good. Let's be real, man. Most of the stance guys, even though I'm a big fan of stance, you guys know that I used to love it. When it comes to the crazy camber, obviously I don't like that, but nice lowered cars with nice fitment, I like that a lot. But let's face it, man, most of those guys are doing it for some sort of attention, and the FB RX-7 just doesn't get them that attention that they want. It's just not the most popular JDM car, so a lot of people don't tend to modify them that way. You'll see them sometimes, obviously. You'll see them sometimes in every one of these forms of motorsports, but this one's definitely one of the least. All right, but now we are into the good, the bad, and the Mark Roden, aka the ugly. Yeah, that's right, self-deprecation, man, it goes a long way. And the way this works, in case you're new here, is first I go over the good. Okay, these are just things that are great about the car. If you walked into a Mazda dealership in 1980, this is what the salesman would have said to you to try and get you to buy the car. Then I get into the bad, which aren't actually bad things. It's just a fun play on words due to that wonderful movie. I still have to watch that movie, dude. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been making good, bad, and uglies for years and still have never watched the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's so stupid, and my dad has been telling me to watch it for so long too. It's just like, it's so long. It's like a 4-hour long movie, dude. But either way, yeah, it's just a play on words. The bad is more a middle ground area. It's more of like, if it affects you, then it could be a bad thing. If it doesn't affect you, then who cares? It's, you know what I mean? It doesn't affect you. It's whatever. And then we get into the ugly, which are genuine problems. Everyone's going to have to deal with them at some point, and it will be a nightmare, or at least annoying for every person out there, no matter who you are. But without further ado, let's get right into it with the good. And the first point for the good is the looks. I know that this is obviously personal opinion. Looks are always personal opinion. But there are some cars out there where you look at them and you're like, how could someone not like it? Maybe it's not your favorite car. Maybe you don't look at an FB RX-7 and you're like, God, that's gorgeous. But do you really think it's ugly? No, I don't think there's anybody out there that could think an FB RX-7 is ugly. It is just a overall good looking car. So I don't think it's a hot take to put the looks in the good, even though usually I put the looks in the bad, because again, it's usually a personal preference. Like something like a modern car, like an Infiniti Q50. I know it's a random car, but just think of that, for example. There easily could be somebody that says that they don't like how that looks, and everybody's going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's a good split, because there are some people that will like how it looks, some people that won't. The FB RX-7, I think it's very, very rare you're going to find somebody that genuinely thinks it looks bad. So I'm putting it in the good. Next is pop-up headlights. Pop-up headlights are always awesome. Everybody likes them. I guess technically speaking, they're a little bit worse for aerodynamics purposes if you're like trying to race the car, obviously. So could, I guess, go in the bad for that reason. But come on, let's stop being picky, man. It's a good point. Okay, pop-up headlights are cool. And then on top of that, I heard some people like talking about like, oh, well, pop-up headlights can cause more problems in the future because they can break. Okay, normal headlights can break too, dude. It's like literally just electronics. If you have a problem fixing a pop-up headlight, then you might not want to get into cars, bro. It's not that big of a deal. Next up for the good is the community behind these cars. It's obviously very, very small, but that tends to be a better thing in the car world. You don't want a massive community because then it just paints a bad light on you. Look at G35 guys, like VQ guys, right? Look at Mustang guys. Why are those guys always looked at as in such a bad light? Well, because there's so freaking many of them. And since there's so many of them, the majority of them are good people, but you get a couple that are bad people, and then the videos start to roll out more and more and more, and everybody starts to think that they're all like that. So it's actually better that the community is small for the FB RX-7, and that's why I put it in the good. Next is the rotary noises. I mean, it's just, again, do you have ears? If you have ears, then it's a good sound. Next is they are extremely lightweight. It's, again, don't know anybody that's ever been like, wow, I want my car to be heavier. I just don't think that's possible. So yeah, it's obviously in the good. Next is the price. These cars, again, are pretty much fit anybody's budget. No matter who you are, there's an FB RX-7 out there for your price range. So that's obviously a good thing. Next is actually surprising, but it's all the engine space that this car has. After reading like up on these cars a couple years ago, actually, because I wanted one, but I didn't want to keep the rotary in it, because who would want to keep that rotary in it? And I was like, could you fit an LS in it? And pretty much everybody was like, yeah, it's got enough space to fit an LS. And if you could fit an LS, the car's got enough space, pretty much, in my opinion, because like that's a perfect motor. And it's very surprising because the car looks very small, but apparently, yeah, it can actually fit a pretty large plethora. Fun word right there, buddy. Word of the day, plethora of motors. Next is for the good, though, is that these cars are underrated. Again, I guess somebody can look at this as a bad point if you're trying to buy a car for clout. And I'm not judging you, by the way, man. I get it. Some people just like the attention for cars. It's fine. It is what it is. But if that's the type of person you are, I guess this could go in the bad. But I think for the majority of people watching this video, the car being less known and less talked about is probably a better thing. You don't want attention, bro. As you start to get older, you start to realize that. Like, even with my YouTube subscribers, man, I've gotten some messages sometimes that I'm literally like, okay, I gotta block that guy. It's like, you just don't want that. So if they're underrated and less people are talking about you and your car, that's better, obviously. Next is the car is a good investment. I don't think anybody else, well, okay, it depends on the type of person you are. Let me just put this out there. I don't want to make yell at anybody or anything and make anybody upset, but if you're a younger guy, I do not think it's a good investment, because it's a lot of work, and you're, no offense, man, but you're just immature. And listen, man, we were all that age at one point. You guys are hilarious, you know what I mean? Teenagers, God bless you. But you are a little immature, so I don't think it's a good investment for you guys. But for older people that are going to take care of your FB RX-7, I could easily see this car rising in price. It already has, and especially if you take one that's kind of beat up and fix it up, make it look nice, you could easily get a lot more money for it. This car has a very, very large price range, and the reason why is because of the condition that the majority of them are in. Next for the good is the perfect wheelbase that these cars have. The reason why they were so freaking successful, well, they weren't actually even that successful, but the reason why they used them in Group B rally racing is because of the freaking wheelbase, man. It was just perfect for what they needed it to do, and that's good for everything. It's good for drifting. Well, maybe not the best for drifting. Drifters actually kind of tend to want a little bit of a larger wheelbase, it seems like, because they use like Chasers and S chassis. These cars do have a larger wheelbases than things like Miatas, and they don't tend to use those very often. So maybe not drifting, but you know, circuit racing, rally racing, autocross, time attack, whatever it may be, you always want a smaller wheelbase, and this car has a very small one, which is obviously good. And finally, for the good is how easy it is to work on besides the engine. I want to make that abundantly clear. We'll get into that in the bad section here, but yeah, obviously rotary engines take a special skill. You need to be a certain type of person to know how to work on a rotary. It's a completely different beast than just a regular engine. However, the rest of the car, since it's so analog, so 70s, is extremely easy, as long as it's not like rotted out, obviously, and you got bolts rounding off. But if that's not happening, the car is a cakewalk, and actually, honestly, if it wasn't for the engine, would be a really good car to learn how to work on cars on. Alrighty, lads, but now we are into the bad. And the bad, again, are not actually bad things. They're just things that if it affects you, it affects you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's 100% up to the person that's actually going to look at the car, whether or not it's a bad thing, or honestly, it could even be a good thing, or just something that just doesn't affect you in the first place. And first off, for the bad, I always put this here as the first one for the bad, but it's the sound. Obviously, sound is 100% personal preference. Some people like the sound of V8s. Some people like the sound of little Honda inline 4s. It is obviously 100% up to the person on whether or not the car sounds good. So here's a clip of an FB RX-7 making some noise. Next for the bad is the cabin space that this car has. Before we get into that though, I do want to mention one thing. I know I said in the good that the rotary noises are a good point, and then I put in the bad the sound, because it's not always going to sound like a perfect rotary. The perfect rotaries that everybody sounds like that choppy, like those are heavily modified. And so if you could get it to that point, that's when it starts to sound like rotary noises, and that's when it's a good point. But the majority of the time it won't sound like that, so that's why I'm putting it in the bad. Either way, yeah, cabin space doesn't have a lot of it. It's a small car. Next for the bad is cup holders. I don't even know if they exist. I don't think they do. I would doubt that they do. They're a 70s sports car. They weren't putting cup holders in sports cars back then. If they do exist though, they're definitely not good enough for today's drinks. Obviously cans have gotten bigger, cups have gotten bigger. You're not putting them in there anymore. Next for the bad is the cargo space. We talked about the cabin space. The cargo space is just as bad. You're not fitting anything in the trunks of these things. You're not fitting any dead bodies in there, unfortunately. Don't ask how I know. Next for the bad is the aftermarket support that these cars have. Even though they are an RX-7, they are easily the least popular RX-7. They don't have a lot of body kits. They don't have a lot of turbos lining up to give you parts for. There's just not a lot of aftermarket support for these cars when you compare them to other JDM cars. Now when you compare it to something like a freaking Chevy Malibu 2012, then obviously yeah, it's going to have a little bit more modifications available to it than that. But when it comes to like JDM classic cars, yeah, it's got very low amount actually, which is kind of surprising. Next is actually the price for the OEM parts as well. So yeah, pretty much if you break something on your FB RX-7, it might take a little while to find a part for it, whether it's OEM or aftermarket. It might take some time. The price for OEM, they obviously don't make OEM FB RX-7 parts anymore, so you're gonna have to find one on Marketplace or eBay or whatever it may be, and at that point, man, you're paying a premium for something that should just be a stock part. And next for the bad is that rotaries are tough to work on. We kind of talked about this earlier in the good, because I said that it was a good car to like learn how to work on besides the engine, and this is the engine. So yeah, again, for those who don't know, if you're watching this video and you don't know this, though I'm gonna be honestly kind of surprised, but for those who don't know, rotary engines do not work in the same way a regular engine does. It's completely different, and it literally requires like a whole new, like you can know everything on how to work on an engine and like rebuild engines and then get a rotary and just have to completely restart and learn everything over again, because it just works in a completely different way. So it takes the type of person, obviously, but I guarantee if you're watching this video actually thinking about buying an FB RX-7, you already know that anyways, but I just did want to mention it anyways. Next is going to look at these cars like in person and everything like that is going to be very, very sketchy. There's a lot, not sketchy in the sense of like you're going to get robbed and shot and killed. No, that's not the case, man. But sketchy in the sense of like, you gotta be careful with what you're looking at, man. These are such old cars. There's a very high probability that you will buy a car and it will have hidden issues on it, and 100% of the time. So you really got to know what you're looking at buying an FB RX-7 to make sure you don't get scammed, in my opinion. Next is obvious. This is obvious, but again, I'm gonna mention it. They're not fast in a straight line. I don't think anybody out there is going to buy an FB RX-7 and expect it to go fast in a straight line, but if you're that type of person, you're stupid, man. It's not going to work. These are handling cars. If you want to drive this car fast, you take it to canyons or back roads or a racetrack, preferably, obviously, and that's where you go fast, not on the highway. And finally, for the bad is all the little problems that are going to come with this car because of age. Things like electronics not working, bushings being cracked, the paint being faded, sunroof leaking, headliner drooping, and anything else that comes with age that's going to be a little bit frustrating to deal with. These aren't things that make or break a car. You know, if the paint's faded, who cares, realistically speaking? As long as it's not rotted, it's fine. You can always just get it repainted if you really care that much about it. If the bushings are cracked, it's not the end of the world. You just got to replace the bushings. It's not that big a deal. Something like head gaskets being cracked, now that's a little bit more, or not really cracked, but dry rotted. That's a little bit more of a problem, obviously. Tires too. But either way, they are little things that they do start to add up, and it just kind of ruins the luxury of the car, and this car already needs as much luxury as it can get, considering it is a 70s, 80s car. It doesn't have that much going for it in terms of luxury anymore, and if all the luxurious features are broken, well, now it might be a little bit disappointing for the person buying it. I obviously, this isn't these things aren't make or break deals for the majority of us, but when they start to add up and there starts to be a lot of them, it might become that, and that's what I'm warning you guys about. But now we are into the ugly. So I think there's 3 points. No, there's 2. So 2 points for the 2 points in the ugly that I have today are problems with the car that you're just gonna have to address at some point and are genuine. Like, yeah, think it over, think about these things before going to buy the car, because it could it could ruin you, realistically speaking. And first for the ugly is obviously the automatic transmission. It is a god awful option. Just get the manual. They're not hard to find manuals. There's actually more manuals than there are automatics easily. So just get a freaking manual, man. If you're going to buy an FB RX-7, there's absolutely no reason to get the autos. They're not faster. They're not more reliable. They're not cooler. Nothing about them is good. Stay away from the automatic transmissions for as much as you can. And finally for the ugly is unfortunately the drivetrain. The engine is just not reliable and doesn't make good power. The manual transmission is only a 4-speed and can't handle a lot of power. The differential is made out of freaking glass. You pretty much, I already said this before, but you pretty much have to swap everything into this car to make it fun in 2025, and at that point, for the price that you're going to be paying for something like that, you might as well have just bought something even better, like an FD RX-7, realistically speaking. Dude, these cars, even if you get the turbo, make 165 horsepower, and yes, they do weigh around as much as a Miata, so 165 horsepower is not bad or anything, but when you take into consideration, Miatas already make 135, and people do not keep Miatas stock. You're gonna have to do a lot, and the good part about Miatas, and the reason why people love them so much, is not only are they fun and they're lightweight and they can handle and stuff like that, like the FB RX-7 can, but they do all that stuff extremely reliably. The 1.8 liter and 1.6 liter in Miatas are both very, very good motors. This motor is the complete opposite of that and not very good. On top of that, Miatas have 5-speed transmissions and these have 4-speed transmissions. The Miata diff is not made out of glass. There is every part of the FB RX-7 is gonna need to be swapped over if you want to have any sort of, not even big power builds, but anything that's gonna be fun to drive in 2025 and be reasonable for that price. And at that point, it sucks to say it because I love these cars, man. You guys know that. I think FB RX-7s are such cool little cars, but honestly, man, if you want my 100% honest opinion, it's just not worth the money to do all that anymore. Either way, my final thoughts. Do I think that you should buy the car, depending on the current situation that you're in? Well, if you're trusting my opinion, some random guy that you just met on the internet and didn't even meet, just heard me talk, then no, because these cars are extremely touchy and it requires a certain type of person to use them. And if you're that gullible, hate to be the bearer of bad news, buddy, but you're gonna run into some problems with your car and it's gonna get stuck in the garage. But for everybody else, if you're looking for a daily driver, if you're the type of person that just wants to get from point A to point B and you don't care if your car's cool in any way, you just want to get to work and back on time, is all you care about, you're an idiot, man. The fact that you even watched this video is surprising. I'm gonna be honest. No, don't ever buy this car. What are you thinking? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Just buy a Camry, just buy a Civic. That is so stupid. Don't do that if you're just looking for a daily. As for the car guys looking for a daily driver, because obviously we're a little bit different from regular people. When we say we want a daily, we buy the Ford Focus ST. When they say what they want a daily, they buy the Ford Focus SE, because we like to have a little bit of fun even in our dailies. Still, no, I mean, you're also kind of a dummy. You're not as big of a dummy as the other guys, but I mean, if anything, no, you know what, actually no, I take that back. You are as big of a dummy as the other guys. You're more of a dummy, actually, because you're a car guy, so you should know that rotaries are not good motors and not good daily drivers. So if anything, yeah, you're actually dumber than they are. It makes kind of sense why, like, if my sister brought an FB RX-7 home and was like, oh mom, Mark, look what I got for my first car, I'd be like, you're an idiot, but I understand, you didn't know why that you're a big idiot. But if, like, my dad did, I would be like, what are you doing, dude? What are you do I have to put you in a home or something at this point? Like, what's going on? As for the Sunday cruiser folks, however, the guys that want to buy a car, keep it in the garage, keep it nice and clean, maybe flip it for some money in a couple of years and just enjoy the car, go out to brunch with your wife on Sundays, honestly, yeah, if the car's in good condition, if anything, it makes the most sense for you, because again, for the guys that are looking for a project, I don't know if it's necessarily the best idea, just due to the fact that you're spending so much money for something that a much cheaper car could do. But for the Sunday cruiser folks, if any, yeah, because you probably don't plan on modifying it and don't plan on putting a bunch of money into the motor and things like that. So yeah, I said it already, but yeah. And then obviously I already kind of said what I think here, but for the race car / project car people, if you're ready for the headache that these cars are, they are extremely fun cars in almost any kind of motorsports out there. But I just want to be honest with you, bro, and you already know this anyways. I mean, where you're looking for a project car, you're smarter than the average person when it comes to cars. But I'll tell you it again, just to really put it in your mind, man. It's not the most financially smart decision when it comes to a project car. Obviously, there are plenty of other project cars out there that'll do the job much better than an FB RX-7. Miatas being one of them, obviously. E36s, something like that. Even S chassis, honestly, that will do it for a lot cheaper than you are going to get in an FB RX-7. So cool project car, sure. And if you are ready to take on the task and you have the extra money to spend, then please do, man, because I like seeing FB RX-7s that are modded. But I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Mazda RX-7 FB. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos I'd like to see in the comment section down below. Check the links in the description for any of my other social medias or any of my other YouTube channels or any of that great mumbo jumbo. And yeah, let me, obviously, guys, I mainly go off of comment recommendations. Somebody recommended the FB RX-7, so that's why I did the FB RX-7 today. So if you guys want to see your car, obviously, I've said this before, and I feel like people don't really understand, but if the car is super niche and it's like something that I'm obviously not going to get a lot of views if I make a video on it, then obviously I can't do that, man. I'm a YouTuber. This is my job. You know, I gotta at least think it over a little bit. But if it's something like this, I'll do it. It's just like there's been people that have been like, could you do a good, bad, and ugly on a 2009 Hyundai Sonata? And I'm like, well, no offense, man, but that car is just not gonna get, nobody really cares about him too much, you know what I mean? And I don't really care about him that much. So unfortunately, things like that, obviously I'll have to be no. But if you have a relatively enthusiast style car, then yeah, I'll absolutely do them. I did a Kia Stinger, dude, recently. I did an FB RX-7 today, obviously. So we're doing some weird ones, the ones that you would never expect to see on the Mark Roden channel, obviously. But either way, guys, that is the end of today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Next real video, I think, is going to be following up on the next top 25 list. Don't know, though, exactly. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.